this learning video, the topic we are going to discuss is ESP Speaking and Listening Skill. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Let me introduce myself. I am Reza Pustika MPD, the lecturer of English for Specific Purposes subject. English for Specific Purposes has become an interesting topic for over decades in English education field. As English functions as communication, international language, people all over the world find it essential to learn English. Moreover, learning English to support their study or career. Here, English for Specific Purposes takes place. English for Specific Purposes, or ESP, is known as a learner-centered approach to teaching English as a foreign or second language. It meets the needs of mostly adult learners who need to learn a foreign language for use in their vocational fields, such as science, technology, medicine, leisure, and academic learning. This course is recommended for students of teacher candidate professionals who wish to learn how to design ESP courses and programs in an area of specialization, such as English for business, for civil engineering, for academic purposes, and for health service purposes. In addition, they are introduced to ESP instructional strategies, materials adaptation and development, and evaluation. In this learning video, the topic we are going to discuss is ESP Speaking and Listening Skill. Before we go further to the discussion, I want to inform you that materials in this learning video are taken from Paltridge and Starfield S 2013. Speaking skill. The research lens of English for specific purposes would appear to be overall somewhat more focused on writing than speaking. One factor contributing to this phenomenon is that in some ESP contexts, specifically English for academic purposes, written genre rather than oral genres have been considered as more central to professional success. The widespread use of English as a lingua franca has prompted a refocusing of some ESP speaking research toward the ELF perspective, which increasingly questions the need for English language learners to acquire native speaker-like target forms. Charles 2007 reasonably questions why ELV speakers should shape their mutual communication around a fictitious native speaker, particularly in the absence of one. Why could they not shape it around their own shared communicational needs? Together with questions regarding native speaker speech norms are growing uncertainties surrounding notions of native speakerness and of native speaker competence. Our work in ESP has been to assist learners in their effort to acquire the language they need or perhaps desire to achieve academic, professional, or occupational goals. FIG 2013. Speaking activities example in ESP classroom. Peace Corps information collection and exchange suggests that giving students practice in conversation management is beneficial. Teach them greetings and closings and replies to greetings and closings. Teach them how to introduce themselves and others. Teach them forms they can use when they do not understand, such as, "Pardon me, what was that again?" or "What does it mean?" or "Please speak more slowly." Pronunciation is often overstressed in language teaching and should play a restricted role in your class. Perfect or native-like pronunciation need not to be the goal. English is now a word language and different pronunciations are standard throughout the world. Learners also need to show themselves to be learners language drills. To achieve perfect pronunciation of a few words is not only time-consuming, but may also mislead native speakers into thinking that the student is more fluent than he or she actually is, leading to breakdown in communication. Role-playing is an effective way to stimulate conversation in the classroom. You can use flowchart to outline a situation which you want to use as a base for developing your students' speaking skills. You may want to select a small group of students to demonstrate this method until the whole class understands the procedure. Once this is done, you can divide the class into groups, vary the flowcharts for each group, and then ask each group to act out their situation for the rest of the class. While Day and Kranovsky 2011 believe that actually one solution is to use good classroom speaking practice from a general English course book and try to transfer the format into specific ESP contexts. Regarding to this, Go 2016 proposes some ways to enhance speaking performance. These ways actually can be transformed to your ESP courses later. Pre-task planning. Strategy training conducted at the pre-task stage enables some learners to apply strategies during speaking and produce speech that was significantly more fluent than that of learners who did not receive any training. In addition, pre-task planning time has allowed some test takers to prepare themselves for a speaking test by using language-related strategies as well as strategies for content and discourse organization. Task repetition. Allowing learners to repeat a task can free up valuable cognitive space for learners which would otherwise be severely taxed by the need to attend the different aspects of their performance. For example, when task repetition was combined with a form-focused activity, learners were able to direct their attention more effectively at form in the repeat performance. Metacognition enhancement. Metacognition is an individual's ability to think about his or her own thinking and learning. It encompasses knowledge of one's own learning, personal knowledge, the nature and demands of learning tasks, and how to approach these tasks, and the actual use of strategies for problem solving as well as monitoring, regulating, and orchestrating thinking and learning processes. Level 9076. Now, it's your time to reflect on yourself. Have you provided activities that will help your students master speaking, especially speaking for their field? Then how you make sure that your students master speaking? Don't forget to check and evaluate whether your students succeed in their learning or not. I hope the explanation about ESP and speaking skill today will enrich your knowledge and help you design your own classroom later on. Now, let's move on to the next topic, which is ESP and listening skill. In a recent review of materials of English for specific purposes, McDonough 2010 identified over 20 professional areas in which English was needed for effective communication. This included aviation, commerce, customer care, engineering, finance, human resources, information technology, law enforcement, maritime communication, media, medicine, nursing, telecommunications, and tourism. Most, if not all, of the materials surveyed, the explicit emphasis was on learning specialized vocabulary. While grammar and language skills, speaking, listening, reading, and writing, are also important in many of the materials she described. The emphasis given to each of these areas was uneven. Where oral communication skills are crucial to an area of work, for example, aviation and maritime communication, the focus tended to be on speaking and the correct pronunciation of technical words. On the whole, attention to listening in the materials McDonald surveyed took the form of tried and tested language teaching technique, while in other cases where speaking was emphasized, attention to listening was incidental. A further point that merits considerations in our discussion of ESP listening is the limited interface between general ESL listening and listening for specific purposes. Although the labels they bear seem to imply differences between the two types of listening, in fact, the two share many fundamental characteristics. Fulcher's 1999 Discussion of Content Validity in English for Academic Purposes test offers insight that can help illuminate this. He argued that EAP testing within the broader framework of ESP had focused too much on subject knowledge, and this had distracted from the main purpose of drawing valid inferences about language knowledge, skills, or abilities from test scores. From Fulcher's discussion, we may draw the following implication for ESP listening. While specificity of subject or domain content for ESP listening is useful, it is the general ability to listen in the target language that would have a greater impact on learners' overall ESP listening performance. One reason for the perceived differences between ESP and ESL listening is the assumption that learners who acquire ESP training already possess some level of proficiency in the language that enables them to communicate in English. Fick and Salehzadeh 2001, in discussing the challenges in developing a video listening placement assessment, noted that some academic listening programs also valued, amongst other things, students being active in the classroom beyond the act of note-taking. It is important, therefore, that EAP learners have strong listening comprehension skill, not only for understanding lectures, but also for interacting with others in face-to-face communication. Equal attention should therefore be given to helping learners improve their basic comprehension processes and to addressing comprehension problems they face as second language listeners. In some English for occupational purposes contexts, the basic listening proficiency of learners may be even weaker than that of those studying in tertiary institutions. In other words, ESP listening teachers could do more by way of pedagogy to enhance comprehension processes that influence how learners make sense of what they hear in a language over which they have inadequate control. The goal of second language listening instruction is to develop active listeners, and this is also the goal of more defined area of ESP listening. The term active listener refers to someone who constructs reasonable interpretation on the basis of an under-specified input and recognizes when more specific information is required. Goh 2013. The active listener asks for the needed information. Brown 1990. To listen actively, language learners need to have an available source of relevant knowledge to support cognitive processing, use listening skills to facilitate comprehension and interaction, engage in metacognitive processes to enhance and regulate their own comprehension and listening development. Goh 2005, Vandergrift and Goh 2012. Active listening can occur in all types of listening contexts and is not restricted to situations where the individual is interacting with others. It is needed when one is talking to another person, interactive listening, or when listening to talk or a lecture, one-way listening. In interactive listening, listeners engage their interlocutors in repeating and explaining messages to obtain greater clarity in their attempt to construct an understanding of the message. In one-way listening, where the context does not allow them to do this, active listener will make use of appropriate strategies to cope with difficulties and facilitate their comprehension by making predictions or drawing inferences, as well as monitoring and evaluating their understanding. Goh 2002, Vandergrift 2003. ESP listening as a construct has many similarities to ESL learnings. It involves the same cognitive processes that draw from a number of similar knowledge sources to process spoken input and requires the use of the same core or macro skills that enable effective attention to information in accord with the purpose for listening. To recognize the sounds they hear and construct meaning from the spoken text, all second language listeners need three types of knowledge. Knowledge about the language, phonology, syntax, and vocabulary, knowledge about language use, discourse, and pragmatic, and knowledge about context, facts, and experiences, or schema. Goh 2013. Listening is carried out in different ways at different times because the reason for listening changes from one listening event or context to the next. Effective listeners will use a number of enabling skills in order to achieve their desired comprehension goal. Discussing ESP listening, Evans and St. John's 1998 proposed two macro skills for EAP and EOP listening. Listening to monologue and listening and speaking. And each in turn consists of several micro skills. For greater clarity on listening comprehension processes, it is more helpful to consider the core comprehension skills that effective listeners use either singly or in combination in order to achieve their desired comprehension goal. Vandergrift and Goh 2012. Listen for details. Understand and identify specific information. Listen for main ideas. Understand and summarize key points in a text. Listen for global. Understand the gist of the message. Listen and infer. Fill in the gaps in one's understanding by using knowledge about the language forms and the use and relevant prior knowledge. Listen and predict. Anticipate what one will hear. Listen selectively. Pay attention to specific parts of the message by ignoring other parts. Each of the above core skills can be further differentiated into sub-skills. For example, listeners can make inferences using a number of contextual and linguistic cues depending on the context for listening. Flowerdew and Miller, 1997, identify several ways in which EAP students could be supported through more effective material preparation, instruction, and lecture delivery. Help learners attend to features of spoken language, microstructuring, false starts, redundancies and repetitions, body language, integrate audio input with other media, use of visual aids, integration with pre- and post-reading tutorial discussion. In view of the challenges that second language learners face in academic settings, lecturers have been advised to Use interpersonal strategies to show empathy with students to make their lectures less threatening and create a more conducive learning environment. Help students develop better discourse knowledge for lectures. Structure the lecture by using a narrative thread to hold the lecture together, micro markers, and rhetorical questions. Give students more time to take notes by including more pauses and hesitations. Be cognizant of cultural diversity in classes and its implications for teaching. Prepare learners with effective learning strategies and help them make preparations for subject matters lectures. Well, that covers what I want to share with you in this learning video. For your own ESP courses, I recommend you to read more on the works of experts I stated in this learning video. You will surely get inspiration from them. If you want to have further discussion under this topic, do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you so much to watch this video until it ends. Don't forget to like the videos in Kuliah Teknokrat channel and subscribe it. It will surely help your college study. I'm Reza Pustika signing out. Thank you. Goodbye.
Terima kasih sudah menyaksikan video pembelajaran ini. Jangan lupa like, komen dan subscribe, serta nyalakan tanda loncengnya agar kalian tidak ketinggalan informasi update lainnya.